I have come up with a formula that I use in all the businesses that I design to combine the impact of these 4 issues. Words plus numbers, X symbols, focus. The bottom line is that a franchisee must focus on the established business systems, including what words they use, how their numbers perform, and the symbols they use in order to reach their greatest success in the franchise. One of the greatest benefits of buying a franchise is that the franchisor has already established the successful track record of the business system. Kelly Ritchie. Franchise control systems. Create a business or create a job. Robert talks about the self-employed entrepreneur who builds a small business around him or herself. This is probably an entrepreneur who owns a job, not a business. Rich Dad has a rule of thumb about this distinction between a job and a business. If you can leave your business for a year and come back and find it stronger and bigger, you have created a big business, a B quadrant business. If you cannot, you may have created a job, or an S quadrant small business. For example, many lawyers or accountants become so successful that their clients only want to do business with them. The more successful they become, the less time they have. They own a job, not a business. There's a distinct difference between the two. This is not to say that you cannot build a business around your expertise and creativity. You simply have to find a way to leverage your expertise and creativity, create systems that let others, your employees or co-venturers, apply your expertise and creativity. WHATISYOURPERSONALREASONFOR starting ABUSINESS. As we begin this book about becoming an entrepreneur, it is important to understand your personal motivation for wanting to build a business. Ask yourself the following questions. 1. Why do I want to own my own business? 2. How badly do I want to own my own business? 3. At what level of play do I want to play the game? 4. At what level of play am I willing to extend myself to play the game? 5. Am I willing to spend the time to learn about other successful entrepreneurs and their businesses? 6. Am I afraid to fail? 7. Can I turn my fear of failing into a strength that will help me drive the business? 8. Can I learn from my mistakes? 9. Can I build a team, or do I like to work by myself? 10. Am I willing to pay the price? 11. Am I willing to put in the time now to be rewarded later? 12. Am I willing to delay financial rewards until the business succeeds, or do I need a paycheck? As you are answering these questions, if you are still determined to start a business, take it one step further and ask yourself the following questions. What have been your greatest successes? What have been your greatest failures? How many times have you worked for free? Would you work for this company even if you were not paid? Are your family and friends emotionally supportive of your efforts in this venture? Are you willing to educate yourself in all the areas of the BI triangle, essential components of a successful business, to be discussed and reviewed throughout this book? If after answering all of these questions you are still eager to become an entrepreneur, you may have just what it takes to be a very successful entrepreneur. Congratulations for seeking freedom. Oceanofpdf.com. Rich Dads. Entrepreneurial lesson number 2. Learn how to turn bad luck into good luck. The irony is that what makes people smart also makes them less smart, that is, they learn from their mistakes. Oceanofpdf.com. Chapter 2. Dumb and Dumber Gets Rich and Richer. My first business. My first business failed in 1956. I was 9 years old. My second business succeeded in 1956. I was still 9 years old. If not for the failure of my first business, my second business would not have succeeded. Failing is a strategy. Failing in business early in life was a defining experience. It was instrumental in developing a success strategy for my future. At the age of 9, I started to realize that making mistakes was the best way for me to learn about business. Although I did not make much money, I realized that the smarter I became by failing and learning from those failures, the richer I would become. Today in business, I will often do something, knowing I might fail. Why? Because at the age of 9, I learned that failing was essential to succeeding. There are 2 primary reasons why entrepreneurs fail. One is that the would-be entrepreneur is so afraid of failing he or she freezes, and then does nothing. He or she gets up and goes to work, always with some excuse why he or she is not ready to quit his or her job and start his or her business. The usual excuses include not enough money, too risky, the time is not right, kids to feed, and many others. The second reason entrepreneurs fail is that they do not fail enough. Many small business owners and self-employed business owners succeed to a point and then stop growing. The business plateaus or begins to die. The business reaches a certain size and then fails to grow. Once again, the entrepreneur needs to risk failing before the business can begin growing. The fear of failing is the primary reason why so many people do not succeed in life or are not as successful as they would like to be. This occurs not only in business, it occurs in all aspects of life. I remember in high school never going on a date because I was so afraid of being rejected. Finally, just before graduating, I asked a beautiful classmate for a date to the senior prom, and to my surprise, she said, yes. We had a miserable time, but at least I was making progress. Another difference between an employee and an entrepreneur. Recently, during a radio interview, I was called a risk taker by a radio host. In response, I replied, in today's rapidly changing world, the people who are not taking risks are the risk takers. People who are not taking risks are falling behind. The program was a half-hour show that regularly interviewed different people from different walks of life. It could have been called The Secret to My Success Show. When the host asked me for my secret, I told her about my first business failure at the age of 9 and how that failure led to the success of my second business. I then said, I realized that failing was the way to success. You learned this at 9? The host asked. That's correct, I replied. Like most people, I do not like failing. I hate it. Yet, that business failure early in life gave me a glimpse into the future. I saw my process for success. Some people get ahead by knowing all the right answers. These people generally do well in school. That is not my process. I get ahead by failing. That is why I have started so many different businesses. More have failed than succeeded. Yet the ones that have succeeded have been pretty big successes, like the success of the Rich Dad Company, my real estate company, and the 2 public gold and silver mining companies I helped found. Also, I did not make much money early in my career as an entrepreneur, but now later in life I make more money than most people. So the secret to your business success is being willing to make mistakes and then learning from them. Yes, that is my job as an entrepreneur. My job is to set new goals, create a plan, make mistakes, and risk failing. The more mistakes I make, the smarter I become, and hopefully the company grows and prospers from the lessons learned. I'd get fired if I made too many mistakes on the job, replied the radio interviewer. To me, making mistakes and failing is failing. I do everything possible not to make mistakes. I hate making mistakes. I hate feeling stupid. I must know the answers. I feel it is important to do everything the right way, the way the company tells me to do it. And that is why you are a good employee, I replied kindly. Employees are hired to not make mistakes. An employee's job is to follow the rules, do as they are told, do their job the right way. If employees want to do things their own way or they do not follow the rules, or make too many mistakes, they are fired because they are not doing the job they were hired to do. So my job as an employee is to not take risks, and your job as an entrepreneur is to take risks, to make mistakes, to sometimes fail. Is that what you are saying? Yes, I replied. That difference is the key difference between an entrepreneur and an employee. So you take risks. Is that what you do as an entrepreneur? No, not quite, I said, chuckling. I don't randomly take any risk that comes along. First of all, I had to learn the science of making mistakes and learning from mistakes. Second, I had to learn how to choose the risks I took. The better my skills as an entrepreneur became, the better my judgment at taking calculated risks. Today, I look at taking risks as part of my job. I do not want my employees to take risks. Sounds like a double standard, said the host. It's business, I replied. Failing is not fun, but it is necessary for progress. So do you like failing? Asked the host. No, on the contrary. I hate failing as much as the next person. The difference is I know that failing is part of the process of my business's success. The moment I fail, I know I am at the point of a breakthrough in learning. It's the point where the new me emerges. The new you, shrieked the radio host. What kind of hocus pocus is that? Well, I replied slowly, we have all experienced this new me experience. For example, when we were babies and could not walk, we stood and fell, stood and fell. Then one day we stopped falling and began to walk. The moment we could walk, we were no longer babies. People called us children. Not babies. When we learned to drive a car, we became young adults. Each time we learned a new skill, a new person emerged and our worlds changed. That is what I mean by a new you or a new me. We are new because we have new skills and are better able to face a new world. So there is a world of difference between an employee and an entrepreneur? Asked the host sarcastically. Oh, absolutely, I replied, working hard not to get caught up in her skepticism. We live in very different worlds because we are very different people. One of us lives in a world that thrives on risk. The other lives in a world that avoids risk. Different worlds, different people. There was a silence for a moment. The host seemed to be gathering her thoughts. And that is why so many employees do not make it as entrepreneurs. It's one of the reasons but not the only reason, I said gently. It's not easy transitioning from a world of avoiding mistakes to a world of actively making mistakes. But you make it sound easy, said the host. You seem so nonchalant about failing. I never said it was easy, but it does get easier, I replied. Look, the point is an entrepreneur has a lot to learn and needs to learn quickly. There is not the luxury of a steady paycheck for an entrepreneur. He or she must make mistakes and correct quickly. If he or she avoids making mistakes, or pretends he or she hasn't made a mistake or blames someone else for his or her mistakes, the learning process will overwhelm the entrepreneur and the business fails. You have to learn quickly because you're making something out of nothing, added the host. There is nothing there to support you. Especially in the beginning of your development as an entrepreneur. Yet as you get better, you can go from nothing to something very quickly. One of the great joys of being an entrepreneur is the ability to take an idea and turn that idea into a successful business in a short period of time. Centuries ago, alchemists were trying to turn lead into gold. An entrepreneur's job is to turn an idea into gold. It's almost money for nothing, said the radio host. Almost, I replied. If you can do that, you'll never need a job. You can go just about anywhere you want in the world and strike it rich. I do business in over 80 countries. One of my mining companies operates in China and the other operates in South America. An employee or a self-employed person's scope of business is often limited to a town, state, or country. So it is a different world, conceded the host. Yes, I replied, that is the world of an entrepreneur. If you are good, you are free to travel the world and do business. Most employees need to apply for a work visa before they can work in another country. An entrepreneur may enter a country as a corporation, or form a joint venture with another corporation in that country. Training yourself to be an entrepreneur is developing your potential to access a world of nearly unlimited wealth. And to do that, you need to learn to turn your failures into successes. That's correct, I replied. And what if you fail and lose money? She asked. It's just part of being an entrepreneur. I do not know many entrepreneurs who have not lost money at one time or another. But if an employee lost the company's money, the employee would be fired, said the host with an edge in her voice. In many companies they would be, I replied quietly. My point is that it is the fear of losing money that costs people the most money. They are so afraid of losing, they lose. They settle for a steady paycheck. They may not lose much money in their life, but they lose out on the potential for great wealth. Truth during the commercial break. I need to take a commercial break, said the host as she shut down the studio. The sound engineer then took over and began to play the commercials that supported the show. I've wanted to quit my job for years, said the host, feeling safer in her soundproof room and not broadcasting to the world. But you are paid too much to quit, I said, completing her thoughts. Nodding, she said, yeah, that's it. I'm not paid a lot, just enough so I won't quit and go somewhere else. I need my paycheck. My husband and I make a lot of money, but with 4 kids in school, there is no way we can do what you are talking about. Although I did not agree with her point of view, I did let her know I understood how she felt. So, what would you say to me? How do I break out? I need that paycheck. I need this job, even if it doesn't pay much. I feel I am trapped in a room, with walls that are closing in around me. What can I do? Taking a moment to collect my thoughts, I finally asked, do you remember the example I used of the baby learning to walk? Yes, I do, said the host. And once they can walk, the baby becomes a child. And once they learn to drive, they become a young adult. And that is how we learn anything in life. We learn by first having a desire for a change. We want something better. You may have enjoyed your work at one time, but now you know it is time for a change. It's time to move on. Just as a baby somehow knows it is time to change, it's time to stop crawling. At some magical point in time, the baby knows when the time is right, when it's time to do something different. The baby begins by clinging to something, like a pants leg of a parent or the leg of a table. Babies wobble as they are learning to bridge the gap between crawling and walking. They do this repeatedly, and then one day they let go and fall down. The baby failed. Instead of quitting, which is what many adults would do, the baby repeats the process again and again. Then one day, the baby's mind, body, and spirit come into alignment and the baby can stand. Soon after standing, the baby learns to walk. The baby becomes a child. Then comes bicycles and then comes cars, said the host. Babies become children and children become adults. I completed the thought by saying, yes, and the same process is similar for entrepreneurship. I just happened to start at 9, failed at 9, and succeeded at 9. You can do the same if you are willing to risk going through your learning process. So you are confident in your skills as an entrepreneur? Asked the host. No, not really. I am confident in my ability to make mistakes, correct, and improve my business. I am a better entrepreneur today and I plan on getting better. But no, I am never fully confident in my skills as an entrepreneur, because I do not rest on my laurels or my past successes. I constantly put myself in situations where I am beyond my skills. I am always on edge, always tentative, always testing myself. That is the way I continually get better. And that is why you start new businesses even if you fail? Asked the host.